Let's jump right into it with Denver having perhaps the best pass blocking offensive line in the league against a roughly average Chargers pass rush. Obviously, the Chargers have some good edge play with Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa and Thule, the guy that I don't know how to say his last name, but everyone around them is not really much of a pass rusher, and Bosa and Thule are kind of in that average to above average range. So it's not as great as you might think it is. But the Broncos' pass protection is super elite. It is great at the tackle position with Garrett Bowles being the lead guy there. Mike McGlinchey is, I would say, a tier down from Bowles, but that's mainly because Bowles is like top 5 pass protection good in the league. He's not as good as a run blocker as he is a pass protector, but that's hard to do when you're top 5. And McGlinchey, he is a solid pass protector. I would say he's in that second tier, maybe third tier, but he is a very good pass protector in his own right. And then you got Quinn Miners as a good right guard. The rest of the interior, I would say, is just solid. It's not spectacular, but there's definitely some real star talent on the Broncos line. And I would say they have a pretty clear advantage over the Chargers' defensive line. The next thing they have is an advantage on defense, where they have an average pass protection for the Chargers against a good Denver pass rush. That is not as large of a gap as there is between the Broncos O line and the Chargers D line, but once again, the Chargers are coming in second for the trench play. And that's really massive because the way that the Chargers want to play is to have control over the trenches. But it's Denver that's going to be winning those battles because they have waves of pass rushers they can throw at you. And then there's one specific guy I want to key into, that being our next advantage for them with the quality John Franklin Myers against a weak Chargers interior offensive line. Trey Pipkins and Bradley Bozeman are not very good, especially in pass protection. Bozeman is really rough. He's pretty solid as a run blocker, but he can really struggle to protect against the pass. And Franklin Myers is, I would say, a top 10 or so interior pass rusher in this league. He was let go by the Jets, and that move still surprises me to this day because I thought he was a very valuable piece for them. And they got like a fifth for him, maybe. So the Broncos got a steal there. They got a very talented player that is key in a lot of ways because he can defend the run at a high level as well. So Franklin Myers, he is really good. The interior for the Chargers, not so much. The final advantage that the Broncos have is that they have a star, and I mean probably the best at his position in the entire league, cornerback, in Patrick Surtain versus middling receivers like Quentin Johnston and Josh Palmer. That is a big disadvantage for the Chargers. Surtain can lock up even the best receivers in the league, and he's going against far from it with the Chargers receivers. So that's a really big advantage for the Broncos, is that they're going to have one side of the field or one receiver just completely taken out of the game, with Surtain being the culprit for that. As we shift to the Chargers' advantages, if you're enjoying this video, make sure you like and subscribe because I'll be pushing out more NFL and college football content. But with that out of the way, let's get into the Chargers' advantages. The first and biggest advantage for them are that the Chargers have a tier 3 quarterback in Justin Herbert versus a tier 4 quarterback in Bo Nix. What that means is that both quarterbacks are good, but Herbert is a bit better. And the reason I arrived to these tier numbers is because I combined 4 advanced analytics into one stat, and then I put them into percentiles. So Herbert being a tier 3 quarterback isn't just my eye test telling me that, it's actually based in stats. As for their next advantage, they have an above average Lad McConkey against a poor Jaquan McMillan. And I like this matchup for the Chargers because McConkey is silky smooth in his route running. So he is going to separate at a high level against most corners. But especially in McMillan's case, he's not much of a cover corner, which is to say he's not a very good player because coverage for corners is the biggest part of the game. The next advantage that the Chargers have is that they have an average wide receiver in Joshua Palmer against a total question mark in Chris Abrams-Drain. Abrams-Drain is a very talented player. He was very good in college, but he was drafted in the 5th round, so he remains to be a non-guarantee for the Broncos, to put it lightly, as he could be good. He really could, and I don't want to rule that out, but I'm not going to bank on him contributing because corner is a position that takes a fair bit of time to get rolling as young players develop. So I have that as a question mark. Something that's more of a guarantee, though, is that Denver has an average run blocking offensive line, and they're going against a good Chargers run defense. So that's pretty advantageous for the Chargers. They'll be able to sell out to stop the pass because they're going to have a one-dimensional Broncos team. And that forces the quarterback matchup to be even magnified, with Bo Nix being a lower end version of Justin Herbert. I'm not saying they're similar in play style or anything like that. I just mean he's a lesser quarterback. So, with that said, the next thing I like for the Chargers is also on the defensive side of the ball. We're on defensive side now for everything for the Chargers. They have a great cornerback in Tarheeb Still. He is elite, one of the, I would say, 10 best corners in the league this year, which is crazy because he doesn't get talked about basically at all. I don't think people would even realize he's the best corner on the Chargers when they don't have a name brand superstar to compete with him. And what's crazy is that he's doing this as a rookie, where, as I said before, they usually don't do anything in their first year at corner, but he is really getting after it. He is going against a fair wide receiver in Courtland Sutton. So Sutton is going to be at a pretty big disadvantage. Even though Sutton is a decent player in his own right, he's just not up to par with Still. The next thing for the Chargers is again with cornerbacks, as they have Christian Fulton taking on he's a solid player, I should say, taking on a lacking Lil Jordan Humphrey, who has a fantastic name. Humphrey is not very good, though. He lacks speed, and he's just not overly talented in any way. Fulton has been great this year, though. He's been, I would say, a little less than great, actually. He's been very good, but he is a real contributor. The next thing I like for the Chargers is their final defensive advantage, and that is that they have a gem in Puna Ford versus a mid to good interior offensive line. It's not spectacular by any stretch, but it's good enough. The pass protection is certainly there, but the run aspect is not really. So that's again going to be troubling for the Broncos. The final advantage for the Chargers is a brief one, as they have home field advantage, so that's pretty open and shut. Who am I leaning? That's the question. I think it's pretty clear based on the number of advantages that I have. I'm going with the Chargers here. I think they're a more complete team, and they have the better quarterback, and they're at home. That's a lot of factors to go into one team, and I feel pretty good about the Chargers here. I think them minus the 3, that's roughly what the spread is right now, is a logical bet. So if you're betting on the game, I think that would make sense.